over 1,700 lectures, and it's shown in over 90 countries, so take advantage of that. Thank you, Rabbi Rietti, for inviting me to share with you, Rabbi Kraft, and all your team. It's a beautiful crowd here. Is this working? Oh, now it's working. Okay. Can you all hear clearly? Can you hear clearly? Yes? Yes. Okay. If someone says no, it could be problematic. Do you understand? If I'm asking you if you can hear clearly and you're saying no, okay. Welcome to a presentation entitled Building the Temple, Building Myself. Have any of you contemplated writing an autobiography, a story about your life? Anyone? So let me ask you, your name is? David. I'm Jonathan. It's a good match, David and Jonathan. So David, let me ask you, have you started or you've been thinking about it? To structure it in your mind. Now, here's something interesting. Consider the following. You start the first chapter. Probably you'll go chronologically through the earlier years in your life. And as you progress, there are turning points in your story. What is a turning point? A turning point means you are turning away from the point that you were making before to a completely different point. And the new chapter in your childhood, elementary, high school, dating, getting married, trying to stay married, having children, try to enjoy them. At each different stage in your life, there may be some major turning points, a change in your career, moving to another country, where whatever was mentioned till now takes a different significance. It falls away. It's not important. And what you now are focused on is the total focus of the rest of your story. That would be called a turning point. You follow? And if there's any reference to what happened to your previous chapters in what you're now writing, that's only because it's relevant to the immediate new point that you're making. But really, it's not significant, it's not important, it's not valuable in comparison. So let me ask you, let's pretend we are looking through the mind of Hashem, of God Himself. And as you read the Torah, let's go through the verses and ask ourselves, are there obvious turning points in this story where all of a sudden there's a switch and anything that was mentioned before takes on a totally insignificant role? It's not mentioned at all. And if there's any mention, it's only in reference to the new context, the new turning point. Do you follow what I'm saying? If you don't mention your childhood after chapter 2, David, if you don't mention anything about your teenage years after chapter 7, what would you say about those previous chapters in terms of their significance, in terms of their importance in your life? What would you say? What would you say? It's not important. It's fallen away. And if you end up spending the vast majority of your book from chapter, let's say, 7 through 31, it's obvious that the first 6 chapters are foundational. But really, they're insignificant in comparison because all your focus is from chapter 7 onwards. Let's go through the Torah very quickly and see, what does God switch His focus from to? And how long does He remain focused on that item? And try and get an understanding of what counts the most. What's significant in His mindset? What matters the most in my autobiography? Which part of my life, which relationships count the most? So what's the first opening line in the Torah? Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim Ve'et haaretz. End of verse. In the beginning, Hashem, the power of powers, created et hashamayim. How do we translate that? The heavens, the skies, the universe. Ve'et haaretz, and the earth, planet Earth. Let me ask you, how large is the universe? There are many claims that it's infinite. How long have we known this? In 1924, the Hubble telescope, for the first time, gave us access beyond our solar system to discover that we are part, a speck, of a much larger galaxy known as the Milky Way, and that beyond our galaxy, there are billions of other galaxies, millions and billions of light years away. Light travels how fast? 186,000 miles per second. And so a light year is how much space has been traveled in 1 year if light was traveling at the speed of 186,000 miles per second for an entire year. That's how much distance a light year is. And there are galaxies that are billions of light years from planet Earth. And look at God's mindset. In the beginning, He created et hashamayim, the heavens, the universe, ve'et haaretz, and the earth. After one verse, we're only now reading the next verse, ve'haaretz, and the earth, hayta tohu v'vohu, was empty, void. And for the next 30 psukim, the next 30 verses, God's mind is focused only on planet Earth. Landforms, oceans, mountains, life, bugs, insects, birds, fish, until right at the end, God's focus switches from universe, planet Earth, to mankind. And after 31 verses, God no longer mentions anything about our solar system, stars, moon, sun, unless it's in the context of planet Earth. And after 31 verses, He no longer discusses planet Earth unless it's in the context of mankind. And from now on, God's focus is only on mankind. Can you see a pattern taking place over here? The universe was created for planet Earth. Planet Earth was created for humankind. 5 chapters into the text, and there are 187 chapters in the entire 5 books. Chamisha Chumshei Torah. 5 chapters, and all of a sudden there's another switch, turning point. And God is ready to wipe out humankind, destroy everything that's alive on planet Earth, except for one individual. And what's his name? Noah. Why Noah? What's special about Noah? He's the first person who gets a special title. What's the name God gives Noah? Ish Tzaddik. Listen carefully to the words. Eile told Noah, right at the beginning, pretty much the beginning, chapter 6, right about verse 9. Eile told Noah. These are the generations of Noah. Now, if you follow the grammar, I start a sentence. These are the children of Noah. What would you logically expect me to next say? Give me their names. Shem, Ham, and Yafet. And yet, that's not how the verse continues. Suddenly there's a break. Eile told Noah, these are the generations of Noah. Noah. Ish tzadik tamim haya. He was a completely righteous individual, b'dorotav, in his generation. Et ha'elokim italech Noah. Noah walked with the almighty, powerful God. Here's the question. You're writing the words, these are the generations of Noah. You don't continue the sentence. You suddenly say Noah? You name his name twice. What's going on over here? These are generations of Noah. Noah. Why don't you just tell me, Noah was a tzaddik in his generation, he walked with God, and now tell me, Eila told Noah, these are the generations of Noah, and tell me his names. Instead, the verse in the next verse tells me the children's names. Do you hear there's a grammatical inconsistency over here? And what's the answer? Rashi, our most famous biblical commentator, who quotes the Midrash Rabbi, tells us, I could easily be mistaken in thinking that my children, my biological extension of myself, my spouse and I, are my children. They're my first children. Comes along the Torah and tells me that's not accurate. Eila told Noah, these are the generations of Noah. Noah created himself. The first person I give birth to is not my biological child. That's only a physical extension of me. Says Rashi, Ikar, the most important, the root, the main, Toldotayim Shel Tzadikim, the main children of righteous individuals is Ma'asim Tovim. What do I do to change my character, my actions, my behavior? Watch the pattern. Creation of the entire universe is justified by planet Earth. All of planet Earth with gravity and sunshine, rainfall, the clouds, the mountains, every element within creation is only justified for humankind. And within 5 chapters we discover what's the purpose of humankind? God is looking for righteous individuals. That's what he wants. And what's the definition of a righteous individual, a tzaddik? Someone who created himself. Not who my parents are, how much money they made, how big their home is, how financially secure is the home I came from, what excellent education I received, how amazingly supportive my parents and siblings are, an extended family. No! All that's bonus. What counts the most is who do I create out of myself? Who do I build within myself? What do I choose to become in my marriage, in the dating process? What am I willing to learn? What am I not willing to learn? What am I willing to look at? What I'm not willing to look at? But watch this a little bit closer. What happens next? Noah is not the one that God is really looking for, even though it's clear that he's a candidate. He's looking for tzaddikim. He's looking for people who are going to be righteous. And God starts the world all over again. And within 5 more chapters, who's the one who steals the show? Who gets all the attention? Abraham, Sarah, Yitzhak, Rivka, Yaakov, Rachel and Leah. And from now on, chapter 12, you've got 187 chapters in this autobiography. From chapter 12 onward, 0 mention of the universe. Stars, moon and sun. If there's any mention of them, it's only in context of the Jewish people. Interesting. 0 mention of planet Earth. 0 mention of any other civilization, unless it's in the context of Bnei Israel. Why? Because what was the purpose of the entire creation? God is waiting for an individual who will start a nation whose mission will be, who will I create out of myself? To be a light unto nations. To be leaders, not rulers, leaders. Now, they mentioned Darwin a little bit earlier. The Jewish people, have we made a massive contribution to the world? Yes or no? Massive. Out of 6 billion people on this planet, how many Jews are there? About how many? Maybe 14 million. We are approximately, out of 6 billion, 14 million as a percentage is 0.23%. We are less than 1/4 of a percent. We are less than 1/4 of 1% of the entire human race. And yet, what is our contribution? In all areas, humanities, science, arts, entertainment, medicine, within or completely out of proportion to our numbers. Totally out of proportion to our numbers. How many Nobel Prizes, percentage-wise, have been earned by Jews? Any idea? It's in the 30%, 22% of all those won in America by Americans, 22% are Jews. 37% of world Nobel Prizes are Jews. And yet we are 0.23%. You know, Time magazine offered, I don't know what their criteria was, that the 4 most influential individuals who affected the world in the last century were Albert Einstein, Sigmund Freud. Sorry, that was a Freudian slip. Dr. Freud, Darwin, and Karl Marx. How many of those 4 were Jews? 3! 3 Jews and 1 was wrong. I mean, go figure this out. Is this bizarre? And that is not even in the arena that God really commissioned us. Because yes, in chapter 12 you will see that Abraham is given a blessing, that all the nations and families of the earth will be blessed through you. It is true. But the real mission, the real purpose of the Jewish people is to be a light unto nations in righteous conduct. Leaders of morality, integrity, honesty, teaching sensitivity, care for the poor. Before the Torah was given, the widow, orphan, 0 protection. Christianity borrowed completely from the Old Testament in popularizing the idea that the poor should be taken care of. These are Jewish inventions. So let me share with you. These are turning points in the Torah which clearly demonstrate what does God want? What matters the most to him? What is he most interested in? And we discover it's all about who will I make out of myself? That's what matters the most as far as God is concerned. Let me bring this a little bit more down to earth. How are we going to define righteous IQ? You've got intelligence quota, an IQ, and an analytical ability. How do you define spiritual IQ? You follow the question? Let me explain it better. Some of you may be familiar that the world we live in today, the academic world, educational system by and large, has fooled us. Some of you are familiar with this. And what is the fool? It's not deliberate, but it's very, very, very sad. The educational system, by and large, has fooled us by defining one type of intelligence. And what is that intelligence? IQ, intelligence quota, analytical ability, short, long-term memory, ability to articulate my position superior to you. And yet, what's now recognized more and more is that there's not one type of IQ. There's not one type of intelligence. There are at least 7. Some argue 8 or 9. There are at least 7 different types of intelligence. And every single person in this room was born with each one of these in different levels. Our parents the same, our children the same. I've been working for almost 25 years with gifted children and children with supposed learning disabilities. I've never met a child who is not gifted in at least 3 areas. Let me share with you the popular 7 types of intelligence. And let's discover what the world is now waking up in recognizing what's real intelligence. You've got academic intelligence quota. You've got mathematical intelligence. Mathematical intelligence means you've got a child who's got an acute awareness of numbers. Acute awareness are the two key words over here. Acute awareness of numbers means a child is good with numbers, patterns, sequencing. You've got kinesthetic intelligence. That refers to coordination of the limbs. Athletes are typically kinesthetically intelligent. Excellent leg coordination. Basketball players, soccer players are gifted in this intelligence. You've got spatial intelligence. Spatial intelligence means a child has acute awareness of space, height, breadth in this room, contrast, color, shade, depth. Artists are spatially intelligent. Graphic artists, architects are spatially intelligent. Accountants are mathematically intelligent. You have musical intelligence. You amongst yourselves will recognize that you have a gift in at least 1 to 3 of these types of intelligence. Musical intelligence says you've got a child who has an acute awareness for sound, rhythm, beat. Musicians, good musicians, are typically musically intelligent. They're gifted in music. You have language intelligence. Now this is interesting. Language intelligence has zero to do with grammar, spelling, and even comprehension. Very interesting. You could be failing in language and yet be gifted in language. How could that be possible? Because the definition of language intelligence is acute awareness, the two key words, acute awareness of words and their multiple meanings. Good salespeople are language intelligent. Really good teachers are language intelligent. You know, there are plenty of kids who are street smart. They are language intelligent. They know the power of persuasion. A kid could be street smart, language intelligent, and yet failing language, and there's no contradiction. Because the world at large has got not only the wrong definition for intelligence, because it's wrong in the sense that it's a fraction of the different types of intelligences that really exist, but not only is it a fraction and therefore not the full picture, it's a corruption of real intelligence. Because what we're going to see in a few moments when we finish the different intelligences, we're going to ask ourselves, put them all on a table and ask the question, which one of these intelligences is going to count the most in real life? In raising children, in real life, in marriage, in real life, earning a living, getting along with other people. Let's see. We've covered musical intelligence, kinesthetic intelligence, spatial intelligence, musical intelligence, language intelligence. Let me share with you emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is broken down into 2 parts. Interpersonal intelligence, getting along with other people. Interpersonal intelligence, one of the 2 items of emotional intelligence, claims that a child or adult who has acute awareness of 3 things. Body language, they read other people's body language very well. They read people's faces very well. And lastly, tone of voice. They pick up on people's tone of voice. When you who've got emotional intelligence, interpersonal intelligence, when you notice your friend, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your sibling, your brother, your sister, your parent switch mood, and you pick up very quickly, and you're sensitive to that, that's interpersonal intelligence. You pick up on their tone of voice is not the same. Their facial expression, their body language is not the same. That's interpersonal intelligence. And then lastly, intrapersonal intelligence, where a person's acutely aware of themselves, how they think and what they feel. And when there's a switch in how I feel and think, pick up very quickly. You follow these? Let me share with you some of the items under interpersonal intelligence, getting along with other people, getting along with oneself. Love. respect. How much does that count in a relationship? Help me along over here. On a 0 to 10 scale, 0 is the least, 10 is the most. How much does love count in any relationship? 11, 20, do I hear 30 in the corner there? 50, yeah. You'll break the scale. Respect. How much does respect score on a 0 to 10 relationship? 100, thank you. 200 over there, 400. Yeah. Respect, that's crucial. Honesty, integrity, what would that score? We're up to 1,000, wow. What does devotion score? What will loyalty score? What will generosity score? How about forgiveness? What will that score? Giving, understanding, sensitivity, sense of humor, appreciation, gratitude. Whoa. There's a long list over here. Emotional intelligence accounts for everything in the arena of getting along with oneself and other people. Perseverance, how much does that count for? Starting again, not giving up. Finding another way. And here's the problem. The educational system, by and large, has sold on me that data, information, analytical ability, short, long-term memory defines my intelligence. So a child who's failing because the report card, the grades, etc., don't match the criteria of IQ, if the child falls into the tragic belief that that's really accurate, the reality, however, is that there are another 6, 7 different types of intelligence in which he's probably gifted in at least 1 to 3 of them. And if the subject he's failing in were taught in his strength, his intelligence, guess what would happen? He'd get it. If he's strong in language, weak in math, if there's a way to teach math using language, if he's strong in art, spatial intelligence, and there's a way to teach math which he's weak in, and you teach math, numbers, using art, what will happen? He'll get it. She'll get it. I'm not going there into a model of how to do that. I'm just sharing what really counts in the real world. And here's my question. If it's really true that love, respect, giving, forgiveness, understanding, sensitivity, integrity, loyalty, devotion, perseverance, appreciation, gratitude, commitment, honesty, this is loaded. If these are really the real ingredients that hold 2 people happily married long term, patience, control of anger, listening, compassion, empathy, understanding another person's feelings. If it's really true that these are the winning ingredients, hands down, every time, emotional intelligence wins every time. You put them all on the table, all the different types of intelligence, and ask, which one is going to win in terms of deciding, will I be successful in my marriage? Will it depend on my analytical ability, mathematical ability, language intelligence? A little bit. But it almost always boils down to emotional intelligence. What is the word in Hebrew, Lashon HaKodesh, biblical Hebrew, for emotional intelligence? What?
Intelligencia רגשית.
Okay. In modern Hebrew, that would be correct. I'm looking for a biblical term where we have a word that explains all this in one word. Louder? Da'at, very close. Midah. When you describe someone who's got excellent character, personality, what's the description you say in biblical Hebrew? Ba'al midot. Ba'alat midot. The word midot means character traits. The word midah has another meaning. What else does it mean? Measure. Ribbon Shalom, Master of the universe, you have unlimited imagination. Why do you have one word, midah, which means character, and yet simultaneously it has a different meaning? Measure. God, in English you've got one word for measure and a separate word for character. Why don't you have 2 separate words? And the answer is there are no mistakes in this language. This language created reality. God did not create the universe. He created the alphabet. He created language. He created biblical Hebrew and then spoke. Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam. Blessed is the one that spoke and then physical reality existed. So the tools God employed to create the physical universe was language. Language preceded reality, created and dictates reality. The word midah means character. Why? And it also means measure. Why? Because what is the true measure of a human being? Shape of body? Is that the real measure? How long will that last? The ladies are laughing more than the men over here. Okay. They know. How long does it last? Is the real measure of me the shape of my body? Of course not. Is the real measure of me my wardrobe? More hesitation on this one. How do you say clothing in Hebrew? Begadim. The three-letter root of begadim is beged. Is that right? Beged means clothing. Clothing, by definition, covers the body. And yet the same three letters, beged, have another meaning. Which means? Boged means traitor. Whoa. Ribbon Shalom, Master of the Universe, you've got unlimited imagination. Choose one word for clothing and a separate word for traitor. Why does the same word have two different meanings? And the answer is, there are no mistakes in this language. This language created reality. Because my clothing betrays who I really am. I'm not my clothes. I'm not my body. That's not the real me. Who's the real me? Is it my finances? Is that the real me? Is that the measure of a human being? How much money I make? How about which car I drive? Is that the real me? In America, some people have a hard time with this one. Who's the real me? The car I drive, is that the real me? How about which zip code I live in? Is that the real me? All these are externals. There's nowhere close to who I really am. Who's the real me? Inside. What's the character that I'm creating and building inside out? What is the character that we expose ourselves to others? What are they used to when they interact with us? They're not interacting with the body. That's only on the physical plane. When two people meet, it's really two insides meeting, two universes meeting. How will we respond and react to the differences that come outside from the inside? That's where the real world is taking place. And that's all about emotional intelligence. Midot, the real measures of character traits. What will come out of me when I'm squeezed by you, whoever you are? My wife, my husband, my child, my mother-in-law, so just swallowing, sorry. My father-in-law, my brother-in-law, whoever it is in my life that's giving me a hard time. My learning partner, my teacher, the community, my neighbor, my friends, my parents-in-law, my siblings. Have we covered everybody? My client, my boss, my co-worker. All these people are helping me create me. I'm not here to find me. I'm here to create me, to build me. It's all about what comes out from the inside out. And that's what God is interested in the most. More than anything else. Who will I make out of myself? Not what happens to me. Those are only the props on the stage for me to decide what to do with. How will I respond to a difficult spouse, a different spouse, a difficult child? How will I respond to the cards that God plays me? This parent, this job, this career, this friend, this co-worker, this roommate, this sibling. Who will I squeeze out of myself is whose decision? Only mine. Because what is God most interested in? Creation of the universe? Fascinating. Billions and billions of light years. And what an amazing universe. And yet God ignores it after one verse. How about planet Earth? We can spend lifetimes over lifetimes exploring the oceans, climbing the highest mountains, measuring the perfection of gravity and the gravitational pull between all the planets in our local solar system that enables planet Earth to maintain life. The only planet so far we know of that has all the needed variables perfectly calculated for life to exist. And even more recently, scientists are discovering that because of the exact position of planet Earth in our solar system and the exact location of our solar system within the Milky Way, our local galaxy, we are the only planet, because of this exact location, that is able to look outside of itself and see the rest of the universe. Do you understand what's being claimed over here? We're the only planet that, because of our location, not only are we able to sustain life, but we're able to observe the universe from our own planet. You can't do that from the other planets because of their position in the galaxy. Very interesting. Whoever put us here has given us not only the ability to sustain life, but to observe perfection in the universe. Because little old planet Earth is how far from the sun? How far? Take a vote on it. A secret ballot. 93 million miles! 93 million miles away! Ladies and gentlemen, help me. Why is it so hot at the equator and yet so cold on the North and South poles? Why? Several reasons. What are they? Direct light penetrates the atmosphere directly at the equator, and yet at the North and South poles, because of the axis, the angle of the Earth, there's more atmosphere to penetrate, so the light is diffused and therefore less heat. And also the distance between the equator and the North and South poles means that we are closer to the sun at the equator. 120 degrees in the shade. That's hot. You'll get a suntan real fast. Very tempting. 40 degrees below zero at the North and South poles. That's freezing cold. What's the distance between the North and South Pole to the equator? What's the difference in that radius? What's the difference?
6,000.
About 6,000 miles. Ladies and gentlemen, think this through. 6,000 miles difference is the difference between 120 degrees in the shade or 40 degrees below zero, freezing. And yet, planet Earth is 93,248,000 miles away from our local star, that ball of fire, the sun. So let me ask you, if the sun were a little closer, do you know what 6,000 miles is as a fraction of 93,248,000? Well, I did the math before I came here. It's 1 in 15,000th. Have you heard of such a fraction? 1 in 15,000th. That's the amount of space we're talking about here, 6,000 miles. If the Earth was 6,000 miles closer to the sun, what would happen to us? We'd all be burnt potato chips. Finished, gone. If the Earth was 6,000 miles further away from the sun, what would happen to us? You and I would all be ice cubes. Not a very comforting thought. And yet planet Earth is so perfectly located. We could spend lifetimes just exploring the perfection in the universe, our solar system, planet Earth, with a perfect ratio of gravity, so that water, as it rises from the heat of the sun beating down on the oceans, 93 million miles away, millions of gallons of water rise into the air as vapor, lighter than water. Water is heavy, and yet now it's lighter than air. Millions of gallons of water end up in the clouds. But let me ask you, what's the use of rain clouds above the oceans? We've got plenty of water there. Oh, so another power enters the contract, and wind blows the rain clouds away from the oceans onto the mainland. Mountains force the rain clouds to rise. And as they reach a temperature where the water precipitates, condenses, and comes down as rain, the rain brings all the silt from the mountain down to the lowlands and the plains, and deposits all the nutrition in the rainfall on the topsoil for food to grow, for man to survive. You and I can spend our lifetime studying perfection of the universe, planet Earth. But ask God, what do you consider valuable? What counts the most? And you see, he's interested in humankind. For the sake of humankind? No! He wants, who's going to choose a righteous lifestyle? And what does that end up being? Midot. Character. Who will I create out of myself? I'm not here to find me, I'm here to create me. And all the people and circumstances, different people and difficult people that have been in my life and are still in my life, are not there to hurt me. They are there to help me reveal me. They don't shape me. They reveal me. So that I get to see what have I been creating, building within myself. The only way I'm going to see is when it comes out. So the way to get out what's inside is to squeeze me. And guess what happens when you squeeze me? What do you think comes out? Whatever's inside. So if the midot, the measures of my character, I'm angry, I'm impatient. If the measures of my character internally, I have a lot of resentment. You have no idea how much I've been hurt in my life. I can't even start telling you. It's going to be a long time. My mother. My father's so abusive to me that I can go on for a long time. I can analyze this for a long time. What's the purpose of me going through different and difficult circumstances and being squeezed by different and difficult people? Because the only way God can help me create me is to squeeze out what's inside. You're not there to squeeze me to hurt me. You're there to squeeze me to help reveal me to me. So that when I see what comes out, anger, resentment, bitterness, negative thoughts, feelings of even vengeance or revenge, disappointment, whatever comes out is for me to see. So that I get to choose, is that who I want to stay? Or do I want to change the only person I was created to change? Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you. Quick show of hands. How many people in this room are married? Quick show of hands if I could have. Okay, a number of people. So I'm going to ask you a quick question. How many of you have just raised your arms know of someone who successfully changed their spouse by trying to change them? No one. Okay. I'll make the question much easier. How many people do you know in world history that succeeded in changing their spouse by trying to change them? How many people do you know? Zero! You and I were not created to change anyone else. The only person I'm able to change is myself. I've been put in this world to build me. And the more I build me, the more I build a brick each time for the final temple that will be built. And my name, your name, for each midah, character trait that we conquered will be in that building. Because what is the temple meant to be? A reflection of those who built it. And the quality is in that building. The devotion, the dedication. We are called Am HaNivcha. We've been chosen. What have we been chosen for? Have we been chosen for our contribution to the arts, sciences, the isms, Karl Marx, medicine, psychology? All those are contributions. But what's our real mission? How will I become a tzaddik? Yes or no? That's my choice. Noach is the first one. And what's the label? Eile told Noach. Noach gave birth to himself. Because the real person I give birth to is not my children. Ika told Odeim shel tzaddikim ma'asim tovim. What actions will come out of me? What character will come out of me? How will I respond to a different spouse when you and I don't agree on how to raise these children? On finances, do we spend more than we earn? I'll repeat that. Do we spend more than we earn, or do we spend less than we earn? Have you ever heard of such a thing? Spending less than I earn. And in today's world, the values we are bombarded with, are they clarity or confusing? Which one is it? The values you and I are bombarded with, exposed to constantly, our children exposed to, are they given clarity or total constant confusion? How are women portrayed in magazines? As people who've got feelings, or as pieces of meat that are there to give pleasure to other people? I'm asking you an honest question. Which way are they portrayed? We know how they're portrayed. With clothes, without clothes. It's all about physical pleasure. It's not being honest about who they are internally. In the world of finances, am I being given clarity as to how to become rich and maintain wealth? Or am I being promised that I can have anything I want? As long as I have the credit, I can buy and afford things that I don't have money for. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? I can buy things I don't have money for. Credit cards. What did your grandparents do if they couldn't afford something? They didn't buy it. And today, if I don't have the money, what do? But I want it. What do? Charge it. Amazing. Do you know this is the first time in world history where we can buy things that we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like? Total insanity. Am I exaggerating? And how does the world claim is real happiness? Happiness is a midah. It's one of the measures of character. Happiness is, let me ask you, is maintaining happiness even amidst difficulties, is that emotional intelligence? Absolutely. Perseverance. To maintain happiness is emotional intelligence. That's a midah. It's a character trait. And yet, how does the world give me clarity on the subject of happiness? What's happiness? Is happiness who I am? Or is happiness what I have? Is happiness who I am internally, or is happiness the shape of my body? You know, when I lose a bit of weight, I'm going to be so happy. You know, when I go on my first date, I'll be so happy. You know, when I get out of this date, I'll be so happy. You know, when I get my first job, I'll be so happy. You know, when I get out of this job, I'll be so happy. You know, when I get married, I'll be so happy. When I get divorced, I'll be so happy. You know, when I have children, I'll be so happy. When the kids out of the house, I'll be so happy. One second. If my happiness depends on people outside of me, who controls my happiness, me or them? So the world wants me to believe that happiness is not what I choose from inside out. Happiness is what has to happen to me from outside in. They are giving me not only a wrong definition for happiness, for financial responsibility, they are giving me a corrupted, deceptive version in the name of happiness, in the name of being able to afford. And in reality, I'm digging a financial hole, which is very difficult to get out of. In reality, I'm reinforcing unhappiness, because I'm chasing something that's outside of me instead of discovering that the only thing that will ever make me happy is who will I create out of myself? How much more loving, generous, understanding, considerate, patient, grateful, appreciative will I make out of me? I'm here to build me. And the more I build me, the more we become valuable to the people in our lives. Good salespeople know that you can't sell a product, and if you do, you will not be successful. Good salespeople know that the best thing is not sell a product. The best thing is get the customer to buy it. What's the difference? Same thing, same result. Customer ends up with this product. What do you mean? The real goal is for me not to sell, but to get the customer to buy. What's the difference?
They can become back. They can become back.
They want to come back? What's the difference in this formula? It looks like it's the same result.
They won't complain to you if it's back.
If they buy it and not sold to them, they're less likely to complain. What else?
Want them to buy.
Sorry?
To want them to buy.
You want them to buy it rather than
Want them to sell.
me selling it. It sounds like it's almost the same thing. They're worlds apart. They are worlds apart. I used to work in advertising. Let me share with you. Which is the best way to sell information to a child? Give the information or help the child figure it out himself, herself? Which is more of a kinyan? When do you feel this is, I own this? When it was sold to you, or where you investigated, explored, and saw its value and decided to buy it? You hear the difference? Gigantic difference. The world is selling to me that my success is not based on what changes I make internally, but what I look like on the outside. My clothes, shape of my body, car I drive, zip code I live in, size of my home, furniture. All that's bonus. I'm not taking away from that. That's plus. There's more reasons to be happy, more reasons to be appreciative, more reasons to be grateful, more reasons to be sensitive to those who don't have. But that's not what's going to count. What counts the most is who am I creating out of me? And I've got lots of opportunities for that. Because if I'm not married yet, the dating process has got a lot of opportunities for me to decide who's going to come out of me. And if I am married, I've got even more opportunities. I'm going to get squeezed a whole lot more. I'm not here to frighten anyone. Marriage is not a word, by the way. Marriage is a sentence. Never mind. The men are not laughing at that one. Okay, fine. Oh, just a joke, just a joke. Marriage, raising children, getting along with a co-worker, earning a living are the places where I'm going to get lots of squeezing. I'm going to be squeezed plenty. Life is not about getting hurt. Life is about squeezing me, for me to see what comes out. Who will I create out of myself? And God is the one that's calculating it all perfectly. I'll close. There's much more to be said on this subject, but essentially what we've covered is the secret of life is not anything that's outside of me. The secret of life is everything that's inside out. Who will I create out of me? What will I build out of me? How will I build my character? How will I build my relationships? How will I say sorry? How will I overcome my anger? And have patience with me, not just you, with myself. So that even if I fall, no, not if, even when I fall into my anger tantrums again and again and again, I try to notice what's coming out and ask myself, look how I'm hurting those around me. Is this who I want to stay? Is this who I want to be? Or do I want to change the only person I'm capable of changing? I will close. 2 boys in Queens, Forest Hills apparently, very mischievous, always in trouble. It got so bad that anything that went wrong in the community was assumed to be their fault. That's how bad it was. Mum was totally distraught, completely beside herself, doesn't know how's she going to solve it. These kids are uncontrollable. Finally, she discovers the local rabbi is really good with discipline. So she arranges a 10 a.m. appointment for Chaim, the 10-year-old, and a 1 p.m. appointment Sunday for Moshe, the 12-year-old. Chaim, the 10-year-old, walks into the rabbi's office, 10 a.m. Rabbi looks at him and says, Chaim, where is God? Chaim goes, Chaim, where is God? Chaim, where is God? Runs out of the room, screaming in the streets, runs into the house, he hides inside a closet, he's shaking there for 2 hours. Finally, Moshe, his older brother, finds him. Chaim, we're looking for you everywhere. What's the matter? Where have you been? Moshe, this time we're in big trouble. God's missing, and they think it's us. God is not missing. He wrote his signature on the universe, on our galaxy, on our solar system, on every element. He's screaming out, I'm here. In every area of our lives, God is talking to me through you, whoever you are, my spouse, my child, my parents, parents-in-law, my siblings, my co-worker. The circumstances I find myself in and the background God has dealt with me is all there to help squeeze, not to hurt, squeeze whatever's inside so I get to see what's inside and make a decision. Who do I want to change myself into becoming? And that is my script. I choose my future. I am the designer and builder of my life. And in the merit of that, we should all be zocher to happy, healthy lives. Thank you for your patience.